Hello, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to Job Barcelona. This afternoon, we are going to have some presentations from companies and organizations that do have many offers in our website, in our app, in our Job Barcelona. So I'm very glad to introduce you, Luis van Winkel. It's the next lecturer. She is from the Embassy of Canada. And she is the Designated Migration Officer in the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, the IRCC, Embassy of Canada in Paris. Meanwhile, we are going to ask our candidates that are watching us to explain us where they are from or where they are connecting. Louise, with her team, she organizes and participates in online and in-person activities to provide information about temporary and permanent immigration to Canada, including the annual flagship event called Destination Canada Mobility Forum. The IRCC office in Paris covers several countries, including Spain, Belgium, Luxembourg, Portugal, and Switzerland, in addition to France, where Louis is right now in Paris. This conference will last 30 minutes. After the conference, you will have the opportunity to ask questions and comments to arise and any doubt that you may have. The conference title is Work and Travel in Canada with International Experience, Canada. We will learn about the opportunities to live, to work, and to travel in Canada with an international experience. And we will get to know the Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenships Canada programs for temporary and permanent residents. So thank you very much, Luis. We have many visitors from YouTube. Very welcome to Job Barcelona. And whenever you like, you can start your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the introduction and welcome everyone. It's always pleasant to meet new people, more interesting to meet you in person, of course, but these virtual events are giving us the opportunity to welcome people from many different parts of the world. We'll be concentrating today on youth mobility programs that are grouped under the name International Experience Canada, in French, Expérience Internationale Canada. The presentation will cover IEC, the different countries that have agreements with Canada, recognized organizations that can help you participate. We'll talk about the 3 different categories and the requirements for each, how to apply, and some of you might have a project to continue your studies, to improve your English or your French in Canada. So we'll touch on studying in Canada as well. For other types of work permits or for information about permanent residence in Canada, given the short time today, we've decided that that would be a subject for another presentation. And in the resources at the end, you'll have some information on how to keep in touch with us and how to learn about our future activities, be they online or in person. And as was explained, we'll have time to take some questions, and I'll be glad to give you all of the information up to date now. We are in a particular period with the pandemic, so some of the information I'll give will also be specific to the possibilities right now to take the plane to travel to Canada. But programs can change. This situation linked to COVID-19 can certainly change. And so a reminder that as you're progressing in your plans for Canada, always to check the canada.ca website. And in the immigration section, you'll have all of the up-to-date information. So just to put International Experience Canada in context, Canada welcomes about 340,000 new permanent residents each year, but in addition, several 100,000 temporary workers. They come in under 2 main programs. The Temporary Foreign Worker Program is the rule of thumb. We do protect our labor market for Canadians and permanent residents. So usually when an employer wants to hire someone from another country, they need to obtain what we call a labor market impact assessment. In other words, they have to justify why they're recruiting from abroad instead of hiring someone already in Canada. That part of the process is not handled by our ministry, not by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, but by the employment services at Service Canada. As you can see, there's a $1,000 fee for the employer. That's not refundable even if the LMIA is not approved. And they do have quite a bit of paperwork to do and other steps to take. So it's a process that they will do when they really need to hire internationally, but it's a process they like to be able to exempt from. That brings us to the other main program, which is the International Mobility Program. Here, the labor market impact assessment is not required. So that means that once the employer has decided to hire you, they will create an offer of employment on an online portal, and you can go ahead and apply for your work permit. The fees are much less, $230, and refunded if for any reason the work permit is not issued. And so it's a much smoother process for the employer. The reason I went into all of that is that International Experience Canada is one of the situations in which an LMIA is not required. So we're already in the faster process for the employer. So we'll go into more detail about those youth mobility programs. There are other circumstances where the LMIA is not required. For instance, someone who's already been selected, nominated by a province or territory of Canada in view of becoming a permanent resident, they can start with a temporary work permit and they won't need an LMIA. There are some international agreements also. For instance, the free trade agreement between Canada and the European Union, which facilitates movement of certain professionals, there again, without the LMIA. And there are other circumstances where we know that certain types of workers will be a significant benefit to Canada. Someone who's starting a company, for instance, people being transferred within their company or to a subsidiary. And because Canada is a bilingual country and we want to encourage more French speakers to establish in Canada other than in the province of Quebec, there is a special francophone, mobilité francophone stream or francophone mobility. So now that we have the context, let's go into detail about IEC. So International Experience Canada, or IEC, is youth mobility. Youth in its large definition, so you're young until your 36th birthday. There are a few countries where it's limited to age 30 at the request of our partner countries. But for the most part, it's 18 to 35 years old. And we have agreements now with 36 countries, the most recent being with Andorra. And Spain is certainly one of the countries that has a very active agreement with Canada. In addition, there are 9 recognized organizations. Many of them will work, for instance, with students who want to do their internship in Canada. So help you find the internship, but also they can accept students who are not nationals of the 36 countries. So that can be an alternative if your country does not at this time have a youth mobility agreement with Canada. Here is a list of the 36 countries. So as I said, Andorra is quite recent, not yet accepting applications. That's true also for Mexico and Ukraine, but all the others are up and running. And each has an annual quota, and there can be differences within the agreements. We'll come to that in a moment. I mentioned also the recognized organizations for IEC. They are youth service organizations that can help with the finding a job or an internship, and also some support for accommodation, perhaps finding language courses, other aspects of your trip and your stay in Canada. They do charge fees for their services, but it can be an option if you want more help, even if your country does have an agreement. And if your country does not have a youth mobility agreement with Canada, it can open up IEC to you. IEC has 3 categories. The working holiday, as the name implies, the idea is to be able to discover Canada to move around from place to place. And it gives an open work permit up to 24 months. Young professionals does require a job offer. International co-op internship is for students doing their internship in Canada. And for each country agreement, there are conditions that will state, for instance, how many times an individual can participate in IEC and in what categories. And also each year there's an agreement between Canada and each of the countries on the number of spots, and that they are reciprocal agreements. So of course that means how many Canadians could potentially go to the partner country as well. Within that, there will be a number of spots allotted for each of the categories concerned. So working holiday, as I said, is a way to fund a vacation by doing temporary work in Canada. That being said, it doesn't have to be little jobs. It can be jobs with a certain amount of responsibility. And there's no restriction to the amount of time you can spend in any one job. So some people will really do the backpacker trip and maybe be on the ski hills in the winter and on the seaside in the summer and take different jobs in different parts of Canada for varying lengths of time. Others will find an interesting, motivating job and stay with it pretty much through their whole stay. That's really up to you how you want to divide your time between the work and the holiday part. So this category would be for you if you don't have a job offer yet, if you want to have the flexibility of working for more than one employer in Canada, in fact, any number of employers during the validity of your permit, and if you want to be able to work in different locations. It is an open work permit. The validity will be between 12 and 24 months, depending on your country of origin. The next category is young professionals. Here, it's an opportunity to gain Canadian professional work experience, and we know how important that is in a more and more global economy. So this category would be for you if you have a job offer in Canada that will contribute to your professional development. So it needs to be in your field, either your field of studies or of previous work experience. And it will be an employer-specific work permit. You'll be working for the same employer in the same location and the same job during your stay in Canada. That also, it can be valid for up to 24 months, depending on your country of citizenship. And the third category now is international co-op or internship. This is a way of getting overseas work experience related to your field of study while you are still a student. So this category is for you if you are a student registered in a post-secondary institution outside Canada and you have an offer for a work placement or internship in Canada. The work placement and internship needs to be a requirement to complete your studies. I know in Europe often we talk about internships. In France we talk about stage, for instance, that people will do as a first professional experience once they've graduated. For this category, it really has to be while you're a student, and it must be a requirement to obtain your diploma or certificate. Here again, it will be specific to an employer and a location during your stay in Canada. And the validity will vary, but can be up to 24 months. Specifically for IEC Spain, it is for the wider age range, so 18 to 35. Requirement is to be a Spanish citizen, to hold a Spanish passport, and to reside in Spain. That means having a mailing address in Spain. For example, if you are on an Erasmus exchange in Scandinavia, but your home address is in Spain, that would be valid. The agreement with Spain has all three categories. The working holiday is valid for up to 12 months, and there are 800 spots this year. Young professionals, also up to 12 months with 150 spots, and international co-op internship, up to 12 months as well, with 50 spots for the 2020 season. Each individual, each young Spanish citizen can participate twice, but there has to be a 3-month break in between. So you need to touch base at home and then apply for the second participation. In general, for all requests to participate in IEC, we'll ask you to provide your curriculum vitae, your CV or a resume, in which you'll tell us about your educational background, your qualifications, and your work experience, giving not just the title, but an outline of the main duties for each job. I mentioned that a passport is required. It has to be valid when you apply for the program, when you enter Canada, and during all of your stay in Canada. There may be a medical exam required. It's not required of everyone, but if you've lived or traveled in certain countries where the incidence of some communicative diseases are higher, then we may ask you to do a medical exam for that. Certainly, if you plan to work in healthcare, in early childhood education, in primary or secondary education, you will need to do a medical exam. If you do not, then there will be a mention on your work permit that you are restricted from those occupations. And in most cases, you'll need to provide a police certificate for the countries where you've lived for 6 months or more since the age of 18. For Spanish citizens, that is not a requirement initially. So if you haven't lived outside of Spain for more than 6 months since you turned 18, you do not have to provide a police certificate unless one is specifically requested. Each participant in the IEC needs to have some money put aside or some help from their parents, perhaps. We need proof that you have at least 2,500 Canadian dollars. In euros, that's about 1,650. And that's to cover your initial expenses in Canada. So even if you have a job waiting for you, there will be some expenses when you arrive. You won't be paid the day you start. So you do need to provide that no matter what category you're applying in. If you don't have your return plane ticket, then you need also to show that you would have enough resources to purchase it when you're ready to leave Canada. Another very important requirement is health insurance. You don't need to subscribe to health insurance for Canada when you apply, but certainly before you arrive in Canada, because when you arrive at the port of entry at the airport, you will be asked for proof that you have health insurance covering the entire length of your stay in Canada for any medical care you would need, hospitalization, and repatriation if you need to be evacuated back to your home country for medical reasons. The entire IEC process is online, so up to you to determine whether you are eligible. And there are tools online. By answering a few questions, you'll see which categories you would be eligible for. The next step is to fill out an online form to become a candidate in the pool of candidates. From that pool, there are regularly rounds of invitations. They are automatically sent if you have a job offer or an internship offer. That is, if you are applying in the young professionals or international co-op internship categories. For working holiday, it's become so popular over the years that there are unfortunately not as many places as there are people interested. So for the last few years, we've gone to a system of a draw. So you have as much chance as anyone else in the pool, but we cannot guarantee that you will have a spot in the working holiday category. Obviously, earlier you put your candidacy in the pool, the more draws you will be there for, and the more chances you have of being invited to apply in the working holiday category. So the next step is to receive the invitation to apply, the ITA, and your work permit application will be done online. That means filling out the forms, uploading ID photos, copies of your passport and other supporting documents. Everything will be done online. You have also the possibility of uploading this graphic, which will explain in a little more detail the process and a little reminder of where you are in that process as things move along. As I mentioned, a lot of young graduates or students are interested in perhaps continuing their studies in Canada. If you're still a student, it could be interesting to communicate with the International Relations Department of your university or post-secondary institution to see what exchange programs are already in place with Canadian post-secondary institutions. But if you want to look for yourself for a program of study in Canada, I would highly recommend the EduCanada portal, so educanada.ca. You'll see that there's information about all of the post-secondary institutions across Canada for all types of programs in English, in French, bilingual English and French. It also has a budget simulator. It has a lot of information that will really help you plan your project. And with the search engine, you can look for the field of study that you're interested in, the level, and the language. There are also many language schools in Canada, and we know a lot of people have traveled from Spain to do intensive English or French as a second language courses. A good place to find the schools that are recognized by the Canadian government is on the Languages Canada website that you have here. And in terms of immigration procedures, if you are going to study for 6 months or more, you will need a study permit. So that's either if you're enrolling in a Canadian program of studies, if you are doing an exchange that is going to be 6 months or more, you do need to apply for a study permit. For less than 6 months, you don't need a study permit. You will need either an electronic travel authorization, for instance, if you have a Spanish passport. Otherwise, if you're from a country that does require a visa, you would need to apply for a temporary resident visa or visitor visa for that. Canada welcomes hundreds of thousands of international students each year, and we have put in some conditions that make it attractive, we think, to study in Canada, not only for the quality of the education, but also for some of the advantages that come with a study permit. For example, in most cases, other than French or English as a second language, if you obtain a study permit for a program of 6 months or more, you are allowed to work off campus up to 20 hours a week and full-time during holidays. Also, if you are leaving with your spouse, so husband, wife, or common law partner, that person can not only accompany you, but apply for an open work permit that would have the same validity as your study permit. And once you obtain a Canadian certificate or diploma, you could very well be eligible for a post-graduation work permit. That's an open work permit that allows you to prolong your stay in Canada with the authorization to go anywhere, take any job, and that can be valid between 8 months and 3 years, depending on the length of your study program. All of that information for international students is on the website that you have here on the screen. I'd like to take just a moment to talk about the current situation, the impact of COVID-19. Those of you who are planning to go to Canada in several months or a little longer down the road, we hope will not be affected by any of this, but those who may be thinking in the more immediate future, do please keep in mind that there are currently travel restrictions that mean that most people cannot travel to Canada unless they are Canadian citizens or already permanent residents of Canada. So even if you have a valid visitor visa or electronic travel authorization, even as borders are opening up within Europe and for international travel from Europe, Canada is a little bit behind Europe in terms of where we are with the pandemic. We are being very cautious about reopening the borders. And so the latest announcement is that until the end of July, only non-essential travel is authorized to Canada. There are some exemptions from the travel restrictions, but they are generally for people already holding a temporary work permit, who already had a study permit issued before March, information that you'll be able to find on the website. Specifically for IEC, for International Experience Canada, there are no new rounds of invitations at this time. They are on hold. You can continue to submit your profile. So the first steps that we saw in the graphic, determine if you're eligible, place yourself in the pool of candidates, and then you'll be well positioned when the rounds of invitations start again.
Excuse me, Louise.
Applications that had already been submitted are only being assessed if you are in an essential position.
Louise,
so there are certain jobs in Canada.
Hi, Luis. Excuse me to interrupt you.
Yes.
Just to let you know that there's 5 minutes left to start with the debate and questions. Sorry. You can. Thank you.
Perfect.
5
Thank you.
minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. So as I was saying, any applications already submitted are processed only if it's for a job in a critical occupation. And those are in healthcare, in some of the agri-food positions, and other service positions. If you have an application submitted and you're unable to obtain certain documents, do a medical exam or give your biometric information because of the pandemic, don't worry. We will keep the application open. No applications at this time will be closed or refused because of that. And if you had already been approved, if you have a valid job offer and your letter of introduction for the port of entry, you are exempt from the travel restrictions if you are in one of the 3 IEC categories. So again, working holiday, young professionals, or international co-op internship. So to keep up to date with information on COVID and how it's affecting your ability to travel to Canada, here are the essential websites. So one that talks about all the different types of applications for Canada, visitor visas, study permits, work permits, permanent residence. A page specific for IEC participants, and one that's more specific to people who are dealing with our immigration office here in Paris. We have updated information on the Embassy of Canada in France website. More generally, with or without pandemic, these following resources are valuable, again, as you continue planning your journey and your stay in Canada. So the IRCC website will have information on all the different types of stay in Canada. We invite you to follow also the Embassy of Canada in Spain for information about some of the bilateral relations. You may get some hints there about Spanish companies operating in Canada who may be interested in hiring you, or Canadian companies that have operations in Spain and would benefit from having your knowledge of the local market. More generally, for information on the labor market in Canada and job opportunities, the government portal is Job Bank. And there you have not only job offers, including those that are current and in demand during the pandemic, but you also have information on job perspectives, salaries, if you are in a profession where you need authorization from a local body, for instance, in healthcare and engineering, information about those regulated professions. And of course, Canada is very active on social media. You have some Facebook pages here, Twitter accounts. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to write to us at the email address given at the bottom of the screen here. And now I'll turn it back to our host for the question period.
Video, no? I opened it. Thank you so much, Luis, for this presentation on time. Thank you. We have many questions. I will start with Ainsane. She's asking when, if we can apply for the work and travel visa this year. You have explained, I think more or less you have explained all that it's asked here, but let me be more specific in the worries of our audience. And if it is possible, when can we apply? Also, she would like to know if she can apply in work and holiday, because last year she did it and the government didn't give the visa because the lack of the criminal records of the My International Experience. And if she can use the biometrics again.
Okay, very good question.
Biometrics again.
Okay. So yes, the pools are open. You can submit your profile into the pools now. There are no rounds of invitations at the moment, but when they start again, you'll be in the pool, so you'll have a good chance of being selected and invited to apply. From what I understand, you started an application last year, but it was not approved for lack of documents. That means that it's not considered that you've already participated. So that's not an obstacle. You can try to participate again this year. The biometric information is valid for 5 years. So if we have it on record, then you won't need to give the biometrics again.
Perfect. And then we have another question from Cynthia. She lives in Italy, but originally she is from Togo in Africa. Mm-hmm. She's asking which program can she apply in order to immigrate, if there is a possibility.
Sure. So if we speak first about International Experience Canada, there is no agreement with Togo at this time. So if you are resident in Italy, but not yet an Italian citizen, then you would not be able to participate in the bilateral aspect. If you want to take a look at the recognized organizations, there may be an option there. But International Experience Canada is just a part of the larger temporary work permit programs. If you have an offer of employment from an employer in Canada, the employer can obtain what we call a labor market impact assessment. So get authorization to hire you, or you may qualify for another exemption. For instance, if you are a French speaker, si vous êtes francophone, then they take a look at the Mobilité francophone stream, the stream that we call Francophone mobility. That might be an option. You would have the same advantage as under International Experience Canada. That is that you would be LMIA exempt. In terms of permanent residency, there is no difference what country you come from. In fact, it's only when there are bilateral agreements that we take a look at what your nationality is. So for all other types of work permits, study permits, or permanent residence, the procedures are the same no matter your country of citizenship.
Great, thank you very much. There is another 3 questions from Luis. She says, he's saying, my company have offices in Montreal and I may have the opportunity to work, to moving there. So he would like to know what kind of visa do I have to get? I think you have already answered that, but maybe you can explain further. And if the company have to pay the LMIA.
Okay, it will depend what type of position you're being hired for. Canada recognizes that international companies need some flexibility in being able to send their senior management or people with very specific technical skills that are particular to that company, that they need to be able to transfer them from country to country. So depending on what type of job, the level of responsibility or the level of specific technical knowledge, you may be eligible for a work permit, LMIA exempt, under the intra-company transferees. So you can take a look at that, and the company can usually, if it's a large company working internationally, they often have in-house experts as well who may have some experience with that. If you're going for a short term, you may even be work permit exempt under something that we call the Global Skills Strategy. So take a look at that and see if you might qualify for that. If you're not in that level of managerial position or the technical expertise to qualify under those programs, if you qualify for International Experience Canada, then your employer can go ahead and make a job offer. And for instance, under the Young Professionals program, or if you're selected for working holiday, then their name won't appear on your work permit, but you're certainly authorized to work for them as well.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask you, Luis, could you please stop sharing the screen so the audience can see you better? Instead of seeing the slide.
Okay.
Stop sharing the screen. And then there's more questions.
Challenge with the cursor here.
On the top of your screen, stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Here we go. Perfect. So we have another question.
And I'm going to stand up for a moment because we're very ecological here. And so if I haven't moved enough, the lights turn off. So that's why the lighting is dimmer than before. Apparently I still haven't moved enough, but anyway.
Move a little bit, move a little bit. Thank you. So we have another question from Tatiana. She's asking, what if I worked in countries such as Morocco or Ghana that do not have an option to obtain the online criminal records? I think maybe you have already answered that with the question about Togo, but to be sure.
No, this is, if I understand the question, it's someone who has lived more than 6 months in countries for which they will need to provide police certificates. If you go onto the IRCC website, there is a link that will give you specific instructions for each country and how to obtain the police certificates, whether you reside there or not. So it's important to follow those instructions. We understand that sometimes it can take longer than you'd hoped to get the documents. So what you can do when you are completing your application, if you don't have the police certificate to upload, you can upload the proof that you have applied for it. So follow the instructions that are online. Let us know what you've done to apply for the police certificate. And if you receive a document reply from them saying that it will not be available, then you can send that and a decision will be made on whether the requirement is maintained.
Great. And Rodrigo is asking you, he is a recent graduate in industrial engineering, and currently he's looking for an entry-level job position. Is there any chance to get in contact with an advisor to discuss his situation and evaluate possibilities?
We do not act as a job search agency. We have started to work with the Spanish Public Employment Service. So occasionally employers in Canada will post positions through them. For industrial engineering, I would suggest looking at JobBank, looking also at the websites for the Professional Engineers Association. There will be some information there about job perspectives. It is a field where a lot is done by spontaneous candidacy. So feel free to respond to ads or to write to companies whose work interests you. Make sure to say that you are eligible for an LMIA exempt or a facilitated work permit. That will make your CV more interesting to them. And last suggestion that comes to mind, with industrial engineering, there's a very close link with automated manufacturing and so on. There's a website that's called eTalent Canada. So etalent.canada.ca, where you have information about the job opportunities and anything to do with the digital era. Some of it is big data, but some of it is advanced manufacturing. And on there, you have information for different parts of Canada and for different types of positions. So you may well find some valuable information there.
Great. We have two more questions from Tamilis and from Imat. They both are asking the same. They both are in the pool of the IEC program, and they would like to know when you will be issuing the invitations. You have a...
I wish I knew. I would need a
exactly.
crystal ball.
That's what I would say.
It's really linked to the current pandemic. Normally things would be charging ahead with the rounds of invitations, but for several reasons, because we are really only processing work permit applications at this time for the critical occupations, and because most people are not able to travel to Canada at this time, we have preferred to stop the rounds of invitations. It gives you more flexibility if for any reason things don't come back to a safer level immediately. It won't have used up your opportunity to participate in IEC. So unfortunately, I can't give you a date, but I can encourage you to follow IEC on social media, and the information will be given as soon as we have it.
Great, thank you. There is a Pehman, a 34-year-old from Iranian man living and studying a PhD in tourism here in Barcelona. And he's asking that he would like to work in Canada. What do you recommend, as this is the situation?
Okay. It would be interesting to take a look at job opportunities or research opportunities. A few things come to mind. In Canada, we have what we call sector councils. They are organizations that look at all of the human resources aspects, all of the infrastructure aspects for different industries. There is one specific to tourism. There are similar organizations for each province and territory across Canada. So they may very well be looking for people with expertise in tourism specifically. It could be interesting also, if you're interested in doing postdoctoral research, take a look at MITACS, MITACS. It's a nonprofit organization that works to put in contact public and private sector. They have some grants for research. They have some training programs for people who have PhDs and who are experts in their field, but who would like to learn some managerial techniques, for instance, for managing research projects. So that could also be an interesting thing to look at. And of course, when you're at that level of expertise with a PhD, you probably have read some publications by Canadian experts or heard them speak at conferences. Those are other ways to follow up. So using social media, using the academic realm to contact people, let them know what you're interested in. A lot of jobs in Canada are filled by word of mouth. We consider that about 80% of jobs are never posted. They are filled when an employer has an urgent need. They'll ask their contacts, their colleagues, if they know someone, and they will also turn to resumes that they receive spontaneously.
Great. And Vasil is, she's asking about that she was in Brussels on February, and but the applications are on hold. No one answers. Any updates in the next future? I don't know if you have any.
If you're talking about International Experience Canada, if you are in the pool of candidates, there are no rounds of invitations, and that was stopped in March. As I said a little earlier, we don't know when they will start again, but no news is good news. You're still in the pool of candidates. You just have to be patient. And if you are from Belgium, then the only category is the working holiday category.
Mm-hmm. And
what I can suggest is if you do obtain a job offer, to look at the other streams. So outside of International Experience Canada, for instance, if you have strong French skills, you might look at Mobilité Francophone.
Great. Ainoa is asking, my working holiday visa expires in August, and I would like to ask for an extension. My chances to get a job offer are really low now due to the pandemics. Can I ask for a second extension if I don't have a job offer?
If you have the letter of introduction, but you haven't yet traveled to Canada to obtain the work permit itself, yes, it was just announced last week that initially it was a 90-day extension, so giving you more time to travel to Canada and obtain and start your working holiday stay. It's just been announced that a second extension of 90 days is possible. So you'd go onto the IRCC website, use the web form again, and make sure you choose International Experience Canada as the type of application, and explain why you haven't been able to travel yet with your letter of introduction. So yes, a second extension is possible.
Great. So it's time to go for this conference. Thank you so much, Luis, for your presentation, for for the amazing programs for youth that you offer in Canada from the embassy. It has been a great pleasure. Thank you very much for all those who have raised their doubts and questions. And I hope that you're going to be in contact. You have give all the details to contact you. That's very kind. And take care. Thank you very much for being in Job Barcelona, for participating.
Thank you.
Hope that the pandemics will have the chance, all have the chance to open the borders and restart everything again.
That's what we're all hoping for. Stay well, everyone.
Thank you very much, Luis. Bye. Thank you. Now, to inform all the audience that we are going to have the next conference with Nestlé. This is the conference called Talent Engagement in La Nueva Realidad. It's going to be in Spanish, and it will be presented by Paco Mejías. So this is going to start at 4 p.m. So stay here, don't leave, and we are waiting for you for this Nestlé presentation. Also, remember that Nestlé and Canada and all the conferences that are coming in this green room this afternoon in Job Barcelona are presenting offers in Job in Planet. So check them and apply for them if you are interested. So we're gonna be with you in 10 minutes more or less. Thank you very much.